Night. A cold wind stirs the branches of ancient trees. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hoots, and the sound fades into silence. All around is darkness and stars, cold, impassive, eternal. And in that silence, there is a voice. The voice of someone who knows stories that are thousands of years old. Stories that are older than any cities, older than the first writings, older than the very memory of mankind. Today I will tell you not about people, not about animals, not about kingdoms and wars where armies of flesh and blood fought. It's about the gods, about those whose names were heard in prayers at the first hearths, about those who, according to the beliefs of our ancestors, held the threads of the universe in their hands. I will tell you of a time when the very heavens trembled with battle, when chaos fought order in a battle that shook the newborn universe. About battles where lightning and whirlwinds were the weapons, and the very existence of the world was at stake. About how the blood of fallen gods, the sparks of heavenly lightning, and the foam of the primordial ocean gave birth to mountains, rivers, stars, and the laws by which all things move. In the last story, we talked about how different peoples imagined the birth of the universe. We saw how the first sparks of light emerged from the darkness, how heaven and earth separated, how the first deities appeared. But the world didn't come into being instantly, didn't come together like a mosaic in a single perfect pattern. It was forged in fiery battles, in titanic encounters of forces that we can barely imagine. Today, we will dive into the most dramatic chapters of ancient myths in the history of space wars. About those fights that, according to our ancestors, gave shape to the mountains, directed the flow of rivers, lit up the stars in the sky, and even determined the laws by which people live. These battles were not just conflicts for power. They were creation through destruction, a process in which chaos was transformed into cosmos and formless matter was given order. Ready to embark on a journey through the millennia? Then listen and imagine, in front of you, a fire, a real, living fire, just like the one where these stories were first heard. Look into its dancing tongues and you will see the shadows of the gods, majestic and terrible, angry and merciful, those who fought for the universe. We will follow the footsteps of titanic battles, from that vast ocean of chaos in Mesopotamia, where the young god Marduk fought the primordial Tiamat, through the mountain ranges of Greece, where Zeus threw lightning bolts, overthrowing the Titans and establishing a new order, to the icy wastes of Scandinavia, where the Aesir and Vanir made a fragile peace, knowing that Ragnarok was inevitable, to the hot plains of India, where the thunderer Indra fought with the serpent Vritra, freeing the waters of life. We'll find out, why did the Greeks believe that lightning was the axis of the world, piercing the darkness and keeping the sky from falling? How did the Indians see the usual drought as an echo of the battle of the gods, and the flood of rivers as a sign of the victory of order? Why did the Scandinavians believe that even the death of the world is not the end? Mesopotamians explained through myth the fragility of human existence between chaos and order. And gradually, we will understand that these stories are not just fairy tales, not naive attempts to explain natural phenomena. These are codes of a worldview, complex systems of symbols that encode deep human fears of incomprehensible forces of nature, hopes for the victory of reason and order over blind chaos. Understanding the structure of the universe, where every phenomenon has a divine meaning, ethical laws resulting from the cosmic struggle of good and evil. These myths are a mirror of the soul of ancient civilizations. In them, we will see how people tried to understand their place in the world, how they sought protection from the gods, and how they found answers to eternal questions through stories about heavenly battles. Why does evil exist? how to maintain order in a chaotic world, what awaits us at the end of time. So let's start our journey. Approach the fire, listen carefully, and remember, these stories are still alive. They continue to sound in the wind, twinkle in the stars, pulse in the rhythm of our heart, because they are the roots of our understanding of the world. Imagine the abyss, not just darkness, but primordial chaos, where there is no top, no bottom, no time, no form, where water and air are entwined in a single vortex, where even thought has no support. This is Tiamat, Mother Ancestor, the embodiment of all that was before the world. Her body is the ocean, her breath is the storm, her voice is the sound of waves crashing against nothing. And in this chaos, the first challenge to order is born. The young god Marduk, chosen among the heavenly powers, stands before Tiamat, not as a son before his mother, but as a guardian before a destructive element. He has more than just a weapon in his hands, a net to catch the whirlwinds, a sword to cut through the darkness, 4 winds to subdue the storm. This is not a battle between two beings. It is a clash of principles, chaos, eager to devour everything, and order, ready to forge a cosmos out of chaos. Listen to what this battle sounds like, not with swords, but with laws. When Marduk impales Tiamat, he doesn't just kill the goddess, it divides its body. The upper part becomes the sky, where clouds float and stars burn. The lower part turns into land where cities will grow and rivers will flow. Her eyes are the sources of the Tigris and Euphrates, the vital arteries of Mesopotamia. Its tail is a barrier separating the world from the abyss. This is not murder, it is creation through destruction. But the meaning of myth goes deeper than cosmogony. Why did the Babylonians annually celebrate Akita, a ritual that repeats the Battle of Marduk? Because the world is not frozen in a once-defined form. Chaos is always there, in the flood that washes away the fields, in the storm that breaks down the walls, in the turmoil that tears apart society. And every year, God must win again for order to survive. This myth is not a fairy tale. This is a survival code. He says, the world is fragile. It rests on the edge of a sword. A person is not a spectator, but a participant. His prayers, his work, his laws are the chains that hold chaos together. Even the gods pay the price. Marduk accepts the burden of power, knowing that the battle never ends. Look at these ruins. They are a memory of how people tried to keep the sky from falling. In the bricks of the ziggurats is an echo of Tiamat's body. In the channels that guide the water is the will of Marduk. Every city built against the desert has an echo of that first battle. And today, when you see a thunderstorm tearing through the sky, remember, this is not just an element. It is a memory of chaos, a reminder that order is not a given. It's a choice. It's a struggle. So what's left of Tiamat? All. Her blood is in the rivers. Her breath is in the wind. Her rage is in thunderstorms. But her victory is impossible. Because every time a man builds a house, digs a canal, writes a law, he repeats the feat of Marduk, forging the cosmos out of chaos. Are you ready to see how another civilization explained the same eternal struggle? Then listen and imagine, in front of you, Mount Olympus. And there, among the clouds, the first lightning is already flashing. You remember chaos, bottomless, bubbling, formless. But imagine a different kind of primordial power, the Titans. Not a shapeless ocean, but gigantic pillars holding up the sky. Their power lies in the very fabric of the world. in the roots of mountains, in the depths of the Earth's interior, in the indomitable movement of tectonic plates. They are an order, but an ancient one, a chthonic one, where reason has no place, where force rules without law, where time flows backwards, and the stars have not yet found their ways. And Zeus stands up to them. Not just a thunder god, not just any warrior. He is the architect of the new cosmos, the creator of the vertical, where the sky does not press on the earth but supports it. In his hand is not a sword but lightning, not a weapon of destruction but the axis of the world, piercing chaos and setting the measure from the underworld to the stars. Listen to what this battle sounds like, not by shouting. Laws. When Zeus throws lightning, he doesn't just slay enemies. He sets the measure, creates the cosmos through the setting of boundaries. His thunder is the rhythm along which the seasons move. Day and night change. Life pulsates. His lightning bolt is a blueprint for building constellations, setting the orbits of planets, and creating laws of motion. His will is the weight that keeps the sky from falling to the ground, and man from returning to primeval chaos. This is not a battle for power. It is creation through the establishment of order. But why did the Greeks see lightning as the axis of the world? Because for them, the cosmos is not just a space, but a harmony of numbers, a logos that permeates all things. Chaos is a formless mass, and order is a project that requires intelligence and labor. Lightning of Zeus divides the top and bottom, setting the vertical of the sacred, from the altar to the sky, from man to the gods. It draws a line between the divine and the human. Man is not equal to the gods, but can approach them through reason and art. Sets a measure. Laws, architecture, poetry, and philosophy are born from it. This myth is not a legend. This is the code of the mind, encrypted in images. He says, "The world does not just exist, it is constructed, and its construction is cognizable. Order is not a given, but a project that requires constant effort. Every temple, every law, every philosophical teaching is a support for heaven. Even the gods obey the logos. Zeus wins not only by strength, but also by wisdom, making an alliance with the Cyclopes, who gave him lightning, and with the Titan Prometheus, who gave people fire and crafts. Look at these columns. They are a memory of how people tried to keep the sky from falling. In their proportions, an echo of the lightning of Zeus. In their symmetry lies the will to order. In every temple built according to the canon, in every statue carved according to the laws of beauty, in every court that decides justice, there are echoes of that first battle. And today, when you see lightning streaking across the sky, remember, this is not just an element. It is a memory of the logos, reminding us that the world is not a chaos, but a system where every phenomenon has its place and measure. So what's left of the Titans? All. Their strength is in the roots of the mountains, in the depths of the seas, in the indomitable power of nature. Their rage is in earthquakes, eruptions, storms. Their will is in the instinct, in the spontaneous principle, in that which resists any order. But their victory is impossible, because every time a person builds a temple, following the laws of harmony, he repeats the feat of Zeus, writes a law, establishing a measure of justice. He strengthens the axis of the world, creates a work of art, embodying the ideal of beauty. He turns chaos into space, asks a question, looks for an answer, builds a theory. He prolongs the power of the logos. Now imagine a different battle before you. A red-hot plain where the battle of the thunderer Indra is rumbling. The air trembles with heat, and the serpent Vritra circles high, locking up the waters of life. His body is a drought, his breath is a desert. But in Indra's hands is Vajra, lightning is a weapon, and in his heart is the determination to liberate rivers, restore water, and restore peace. Imagine a world devoid of moisture, not just a drought, but the drying up of life itself, where the rivers have turned to dusty channels, where the leaves rustle like parchment, where even the air feels hard with thirst. This is the work of Vritra, the lock-up serpent, the guardian of primordial chaos. His body is a barrier that blocks the flow of water. His breath is a desert spreading over the earth. His silence is the denial of rebirth to the world. And Indra stands up against him. Not just a thunderstorm god, not just any warrior. He is the liberator of life, the one who returns the moisture, who breaks the fetters of death. In his hand is not a sword, but a Vajra, not just a weapon, but a key that opens the gates of heavenly waters. This is not a battle between two beings. It is a clash of principles, stagnation against the current, death against rebirth. Listen to what this battle sounds like, not with blades, but with the rhythm of rain. When Indra throws Vajra, he doesn't just hit the enemy, he restores the stream. His thunder is a summons that awakens the sleeping waters. His lightning is a breakthrough that breaks the dam of chaos. His victory is a rainstorm that gives the world back its breath. This is not a battle for power. It is creation through liberation. But why did the Indians see the drought as an echo of the battle of the gods? Because for them, the world is a cycle of life and death, where water is not just an element, but the blood of the universe. The drought is not an accident, but a sign that chaos has temporarily taken over. A downpour is not just weather, but a victory for order, a return to harmony. The myth of Indra and Vritra explains natural cycles, drought, temporary triumph of chaos, rain, restoration of space. It gives a ritual meaning. Sacrifices and mantras are feeding the battle, helping Indra, teaches hope. Even in the most severe drought, the germ of a downpour is hidden. This myth is not a fairy tale. This is a survival code encrypted in images. He says, life is not eternal. It flows, then runs out, then fills up. Order requires effort. One must pray, work, and observe rituals to maintain the flow. Even the gods sacrifice themselves. Indra, intoxicated with soma, the sacred drink, goes into battle knowing that victory will require all his strength. Look at these reliefs. They are a memory of how people tried to restore moisture to the world. There is an echo of Indra's Vajra in their lines, in their symbols, the will to rebirth. In every ritual dedicated to rain, in every song that calls to the heavens, there is an echo of that first battle. And today, when you hear the rain pounding on the roof, remember, it's not just water. It is a memory of victory, a reminder that even in the deepest drought, the power of renewal is hidden. What is left of Vritra? Not dust, but potential. Its power is not in destruction, but in testing. He is the barrier that makes the world stronger. He is a drought that makes you appreciate rain. He is the desert that makes the oasis precious. What's left of Indra? Not fame, but rhythm. His victory is not a one-time event, but a cycle. Every year he goes out to fight again so that the world can breathe. His Vajra is not a weapon, but a reminder. Order requires constant effort, and life is a flow that must be preserved. Now imagine a different world. Before you, the icy plains, where the sky turns black with the harbingers of doom. There, in the snow, the Aces and Vanir prepare for the final battle. Ragnarok is inevitable, but even in the run-up to the end, there is room for a fragile peace and a great sacrifice. Imagine a world doomed to destruction, not just an end, but a great disintegration, when the very foundations of being collapse, when the sun is devoured by the wolf skull, when the stars fall from the sky, when the earth cracks and the sea overflows its shores. This is Ragnarok, the last battle where even the gods are doomed. But it is not the horror that lies hidden in this death, but the secret of cyclicity. The world is dying to be born again. And in the face of the end, the Aces and Vanir stand not as victors, but as witnesses of eternity. They know that their death is not a defeat, but a part of the great order. Listen to what this battle sounds like. Not cries, but echoes of eternity. When Ragnarok begins, it's not chaos. It's the fulfillment of a prophecy, the final act of a cosmic drama. The Fenrir wolf consumes Odin, but his death opens the way for new knowledge. Thor kills Ermungan, but dies from his poison, leaving the world without a protector. Surtur sets the universe on fire, but fire does not destroy, but melts matter. This isn't a battle for power, it's a sacrifice for renewal. But why did the Scandinavians see death as a beginning? Because for them, peace is an eternal return. Chaos is not an enemy, but a necessary phase. Ragnarok is not a mistake, but a planned ending, part of a divine plan. The death of the gods is not nonsense, but a sacrifice that allows the world to be reborn. Ashes are not the end, but the ground for a new life. The myth of Ragnarok explains the inevitability of change. Even the eternal gods are subject to fate. It gives comfort. Night is always followed by morning, and winter is always followed by spring. It teaches perseverance. A person must face the end with dignity, knowing that rebirth is behind it. This myth is not a warning. This is the code of immortality encrypted in images. He says, "The world is not static. It pulsates, sometimes contracting into chaos, sometimes expanding into space. Order requires sacrifice. Even the gods give their lives so that the world can be renewed. The end is a door. Behind it is not emptiness, but a new beginning. Look at these rocks. They are a memory of how people tried to accept the inevitable. Their carvings echo the horns of Heimdall. Their symbols are the will to persevere. In every saga that celebrates heroes, in every ritual dedicated to the gods, there is an echo of that last battle. And today, when you feel that the world is collapsing, remember, this is not just a crisis. This is the memory of Ragnarok, reminding you that even in the darkest night, the germ of dawn is hidden. What's left of the gods? Not dust, but an echo. Their strength is not in immortality, but in example. They met the end without retreating. Their wisdom is in accepting fate. Their legacy is that the world was born again. What's left of Ragnarok? Not destruction, but rhythm. His fire is not destruction, but purification. Its darkness is not eternal night, but the harbinger of morning. This is not the end of the story, but the point of transition where death becomes the door to a new era. Now imagine a different world. Before you, the banks of the great river, where the falcon of the mountains soars high. Osiris lies in a sarcophagus, but his heart still beats to the rhythm of the Nile floods. This is the myth of death and resurrection, where every sunset is the promise of dawn, and every death is the path to immortality. Imagine a world where death is not the end, but the transition, where every sunset promises dawn, and every flood of the Nile, the resurrection of the earth. This is Egypt, the land of the eternal cycle, where the gods teach people to overcome death through order. And at the center of this teaching is Osiris, the first king of Egypt, the giver of civilization. He taught people how to cultivate the land, build cities, cure diseases, read, write, and worship the gods. But his brother Seth, lord of the desert and chaos, is jealous of his fame. He has a lust for power in his heart and a murderous plot in his hand. Listen to what this story sounds like. Don't cry, the rhythm of the Nile. When Osiris dies, it is not a defeat. It is the beginning of a great journey. His body is dismembered and scattered on the ground, but Isis finds every part, reassembling it. His soul descends to the Duat, but there he becomes the lord of the realm of the dead, the judge of souls. His son Horus defeats Set, and thereby restores order to the earth. This is not a tragedy. It is a lesson in immortality. Death is only a threshold beyond which a new life begins. But why did the Egyptians see death as a beginning? Because for them, the world is a cycle where the flood of the Nile is the resurrection of Osiris. The drought is his temporary disappearance. The harvest is the gift of eternal life. The judgment in the hall of truth is the test of the soul for righteousness. The Osiris myth explains natural cycles, Nile floods, changing seasons, and growing crops. It gives a ritual meaning. Mummification is a repetition of the actions of Isis, an attempt to preserve the body for eternal life. It teaches hope. Even after death, the soul can pass judgment and gain immortality. This myth is not a legend. This is the code of eternity, encrypted in images. He says, "The world is not destroyed, it is reborn." Order requires effort. One must live righteously to pass the judgment of Osiris. Death is not darkness, but a crossing. Through it lies the way to light. Look at these murals. They are a memory of how people tried to conquer death. In their lines, an echo of the wings of Isis. In their symbols, the will to immortality. In every mummy, in every funeral text, in every ritual at the altar, there is an echo of that great story. And today, when you feel like time is running out, remember, it's not just a moment. It is a memory of Osiris, a reminder that even in the deepest part of the night, the light of morning is hidden, and at each end, the promise of a new beginning. What is left of Osiris? Not dust, but law. His gift is an order that people maintain through ritual, labor, and justice. His wisdom is in judgment, where every soul is responsible for its actions. His legacy is that death is no longer the end. What's left of Seth? Not evil, but a test. Its strength is in chaos, which tests the strength of order. His lesson is that without darkness we cannot know light, and without death we cannot know life. He is the shadow without which there is no volume, the wind without which there is no fire. Now imagine a different world. Before you, dense forests, where the image of Perun soars in the sky. Velez, the keeper of the secrets of the underworld, is hiding in the depths of the thicket. This is the myth of the Thunderer and the wise serpent, where power and knowledge are intertwined in a single knot of fate. Imagine a world where heaven and earth don't just coexist, they intertwine in an eternal dialogue, where the storm is not an accident, but the voice of God, and the roots of trees are not just a support, but paths to other worlds. This is the universe of Slavs, where every phenomenon is a sign, and every choice is a test. And in the center of this world are two lords, Perun, Thunderer, defender of order, warrior, keeper of oaths. His power is in lightning, his law is in truth, his gift is in courage. Velus, lord of the underworld, keeper of secrets, patron of cattle, magic, and trade. His power is in the shadows, his wisdom in knowledge, his gift in ingenuity. Their relationship is not a feud, but a necessary balance. Perun hits to clear, Velez hides to save. Together they hold the world, one above, one below. Listen to what this dialogue sounds like. Not words, but the echo of the elements. When Perun and Velez meet, they don't fight. They remind us of the duality of being. A thunderstorm clears up, but without rain, there will be no harvest. The shadow hides, but the seed grows in it. Strength protects, but wisdom preserves. It is not a confrontation. It is a union. Without thunderstorms, there is no fertility. Without mystery, there is no growth. But why did the Slavs see a system of connections in the world? Because for them, reality is a network. Heaven is the father who gives law and power. The earth is the mother, feeding and sheltering. The underworld is the guardian of the roots from which life comes. Man is not the master, but the keeper of the balance. He must respect all the gods so that the world does not collapse. The myth of Perun and Velez explains natural phenomena, thunderstorms, as Perun's anger, plant growth, as a gift from Velez, diseases, as a test sent by the underground lord. It gives a ritual meaning, sacrifices, spells, amulets. This is the language of communication with the gods, teaches flexibility. A person must be both strong, like Perun, and wise, like Velez, be able to fight and be able to wait. This myth is not a fairy tale. This is a survival code encrypted in images. It says, the world is not simple. It is layered, and each layer requires respect. Order requires action. You need to protect the truth, but also listen to silence. Freedom is the ability to choose between strength and cunning, between duty and desire, between light and shadow. Look at these signs. They are a memory of how people tried to hear the voices of the gods. In their lines, an echo of Perun's lightning. Their symbols contain the secret of Velez. In every bonfire, in every plot, in every amulet, there is an echo of that ancient dialogue. And today, when you feel the world changing, remember, this is not chaos. This is the memory of Perun and Velez, reminding that even in the most terrible storm there is order, and in the deepest shadow, knowledge. What's left of Perun? Not fear, but honor. His gift is in the power that serves the truth. His wisdom lies in an oath that cannot be broken. His legacy is that a person must protect what is dear to him. What's left of Velez? Not darkness, but mystery. Its power is in the knowledge that does not lie on the surface. His lesson is that without understanding the roots, there is no growth. He is the shadow without which there is no light, the path without which the road cannot be found. We have passed through a series of mythological worlds, from the Mesoamerican jungle to the snow-capped Himalayan peaks, from the steppes of Eurasia to the shores of the Aegean Sea. In each of them, people were looking for answers to eternal questions. How does the world work? Why is there good and evil? What awaits a person after death? Through the images of gods and spirits, different peoples expressed a common desire to understand the laws of existence and find their place in cosmic harmony. Although the names of the deities changed and the plots acquired local features, the myths were based on universal ideas, cyclical. The world is born, destroyed, and reborn again. Balance of opposites. Creation requires destruction. Light exists because of darkness. Human involvement. The fate of the world depends on people's actions, their loyalty, wisdom, and courage. The sacredness of nature, elements, plants, and animals are not just resources, but manifestations of the divine. Ritual as a connection. Through prayers, sacrifices, and dances, a person maintains order in the universe. What do all these myths have in common? Not a belief in specific gods, but a search for meaning. Each myth is reality map, explaining natural phenomena, social norms, and life cycles. Moral compass, a value system where good is rewarded and evil is punished. Psychological support, a way to cope with the fear of death, chaos, and the unknown. Cultural code, transfer of knowledge, traditions, and identity from generation to generation. Why are these myths relevant today? Because they talk about the eternal, the need for a balance between progress and conservation, responsibility for their actions, transformation through crisis, dialogue with the world, not domination over it. Let these stories from Perun to Osiris remain not just legends, but a source of wisdom for those who seek Pisasov Dvin, the movement of time.